NFL Live, glad you're with us. There's a lot to get into. Contract questions in Dallas. The Cowboys waiting for George Pickens to sign his franchise tag. We got the latest on what the hesitation might be. That's coming your way in just minutes. Ty Simpson and Sean McVay had a secret meeting before the draft. We'll tell you what this latest wrinkle in the Rams' plan to draft Matthew Stafford's successor tells us. Plus, the Giants bulked up their offensive and defensive lines in the draft, but Malik Neighbors had some questions. Wait until you hear how John Harbaugh reacted and what it means for the Giants going forward. Glad to have you here. We've got Kimberly Martin and J-Mac here in studio. Peter Schrager is with us as well. We've got live reports throughout the show, so let's get to it. We're going to begin with the developing story on Aaron Rodgers. A lot to get to there. Adam Schefter reporting that the Steelers placed the rare UFA tender on Aaron Rodgers, meaning that he can accept a 10% raise off last year's salary, which would pay him about $15 million this season. As another condition of the tender, Rodgers would only be able to sign with the Steelers once training camp begins. Let's explain this unsigned free agent tender a little bit more. Teams can assign it after the draft is over. Once assigned, players can still sign with other teams. If Rodgers does sign elsewhere, it could help the Steelers land a compensatory pick in next year's draft. It's going to be a good draft. If he doesn't sign with a different team by training camp, he can only sign with Pittsburgh, as we told you. So any team that wanted to acquire Rodgers after camp begins would have to make a trade for his rights. So it's a lot of gobbledygook, but basically he's going to be a Steeler, I think. Kimberly, from the Steelers' perspective, why did they decide to do this?
All right, stop me if you've heard this, but the Steelers believe that Aaron Rodgers will play for them this season. When he will get there, no one knows. But this, like you said, the two words that were very important in what Laura just said, compensatory picks. This is, look at it as an administrative maneuver. In the off chance that Rodgers does sign somewhere else.
The NFL Live crew just spent a whole segment talking about George Pickens and his franchise tag situation with the Dallas Cowboys. And everyone is acting like Pickens should just sign the tag, show up to work, and replicate his career season. But I need to stop you right there. Because if I am George Pickens, I am not signing that tag. I am not showing up to Dallas. And I am definitely not trusting the Cowboys front office to do right by me. Let me break this down for you because nobody else will. The first 2 minutes of this video show the crew discussing why Pickens has not signed his franchise tag yet. The Cowboys expected him to sign it last Thursday. It is now days later and it remains unsigned. Stephen Jones said before the draft that the team does not plan to do a long-term deal with the wide receiver. And then the Cowboys went out and drafted 5 defensive players with their first 6 picks. The only wide receiver they took was in the 7th round. That is not an accident. That is a message. And the message is clear. The Cowboys do not value George Pickens the way he values himself. So why should he sign? The analysts on the show are saying Pickens should just sign the tag, go to work, and prove himself again. But that is easy for them to say. They are not the ones putting their bodies on the line. They are not the ones one play away from a career-ending injury. They are not the ones watching other wide receivers get paid while they wait. Jack Collinsworth said it be estimated. He said, "It's not a lot of fun when you're at home. If I'm George Pickens, I'm having my agent explore every opportunity to get a trade going because I want to go somewhere this off-season where I can get paid." And he is absolutely right. Pickens just had a career-best season in catches, yards, and touchdowns. He is coming off his best year as a pro. And the Cowboys are telling him, "We are not going to give you a long-term deal. Just play on the tag and we will see what happens." That is not how you treat a player who has done everything you asked. Kimberly Martin brought up a great point. She said the Cowboys killed the draft on the defensive side of the ball. They improved their defense significantly. They hired Christian Parker, a firebrand defensive coordinator from the Eagles. They went defense, defense, defense with their top picks. And on the surface, that is great. The Cowboys needed help on defense. But here is the problem. If George Pickens is not on the field, your offense is not what it was a year ago. You can do all the flips you want about your draft grade. You can give them an A+ for the defensive picks. But if you have a gaping hole at the number 2 wide receiver spot because Pickens is not there, you might have botched the draft by not addressing that position. Peter Schrager also made an interesting point. He said the Cowboys are doing flips because they love what they did on defense. And the thought process is that we do not need to do much on offense because we were so good. But that is a dangerous assumption. Because the offense was good in large part because of George Pickens. He was the reason a lot of times why their offense was as good as it was. And now you are just going to assume that you can plug in a 7th-round rookie or a free agent and get the same production. That is not how the NFL works. Let me talk about the message this sends to the rest of the roster. The Cowboys have other star players who are going to be watching this situation closely. Micah Parsons is going to need a new deal soon. Dak Prescott is already on a massive contract. CeeDee Lamb is going to want to be paid. If the Cowboys are willing to franchise tag Pickens and then refuse to negotiate a long-term deal after his best season, what does that tell Parsons? What does that tell Lamb? It tells them that the Cowboys are not serious about paying their own homegrown talent. And that is how you lose a locker room. The analysts also talked about the possibility of a trade. They mentioned that there are teams out there who would be willing to give up something to get Pickens and then give him the contract he earned. And I think that is exactly what should happen. The Cowboys are not going to pay him. So let him go somewhere that will. Let him go to a team that values him. Let him go to a team that is not going to draft 5 defensive players and ignore the offense. Let him go to a team that is ready to win now. Peter Schrager even hinted there are wide receivers available. He mentioned Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jowan Jennings, an unhappy A.J. Brown, an unhappy George Pickens. He said the Rams are always building and their roster is fluid. So if the Cowboys are not going to pay Pickens, someone else will. And that someone else is going to get a motivated, angry, chip on his shoulder wide receiver who has something to prove. And that is dangerous. That is very dangerous. Here is what I think happens. George Pickens does not sign the tag. He holds out. He demands a trade. The Cowboys, realizing they have no leverage because everyone knows they are not going to pay him, eventually trade him for a 2nd-round pick or a package of picks. Pickens goes to a contender. He signs a long-term deal worth $20+ million a year. And he has a career year. Meanwhile, the Cowboys are left with CeeDee Lamb and a bunch of question marks at wide receiver. And when they miss the playoffs because their offense cannot keep up, everyone is going to ask, why did you not pay George Pickens? And the answer is going to be that the Cowboys thought they could get away with it. They thought Pickens would just sign the tag and show up. They thought their defense was enough. And they were wrong. So here is my advice to George Pickens if he is watching. Do not sign the tag. Do not show up to Dallas. Demand a trade. Go somewhere that wants you. Go somewhere that will pay you. Go somewhere that is serious about winning. Because the Cowboys are not serious. They are the same organization that has not been to a Super Bowl in decades. They are the same organization that makes flashy moves but cannot get out of their own way. They are the same organization that just told you, to your face, that they are not going to give you a long-term deal. Believe them. And act accordingly. Subscribe to the channel if you want real NFL analysis. Not the company line. Not the just sign the tag and go to work nonsense. Just the truth about which teams actually take care of their players and which teams do not. And comment below. Should George Pickens sign the tag or demand a trade? I read every single comment. Now let me know your thoughts and get ready for training camp.